This is Marc Mullinax, and I welcome you back to Power for the Peaceful, our verse-by-verse class and tour of Tao Te Ching's 81 verses, one episode per verse. Today, verse 59, Soul Force.
When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. The sweet sound of the river as she moves over the stones. The same song that the blood in your body sings as it weaves around your bones. When you're listening, are you listening?
When I was a novice, I could not understand why, if the world is filled with suffering, the Buddha had such a beautiful smile. Why isn't he disturbed by all the suffering? Later, I discovered that the Buddha has enough understanding, calm, and strength that the suffering does not overwhelm him. He's able to smile to suffering because he knows how to take care of it and to help transform it. We need to be aware of the suffering, but retain our clarity, calmness, and strength so that we can help transform the situation. The ocean of tears cannot drown us if karuna or compassion is there. That is why the Buddha's smile is possible. Thich Nhat Hanh. When we stay continuously aware, we notice that objects appear to come and go. We just stay aware. Don't think of this as a waste of time. The mind is collecting data so that at some point in the future, when all the data come together and make sense, understanding will arise. Tejaniya, a Burmese Buddhist monk.
Thank you. My reader today is Lauren Lausen, who describes herself this way.
I am a first-year acupuncture student at Taoist Traditions College of Chinese Medical Arts. I am a new student to the teachings of the Tao Te Ching and look forward to extending my knowledge and understanding of how to bring its wisdom into my everyday life.
Lauren and I were in the same class together recently, so thank you for being with us today, Lauren. I started to prepare for this episode on the day of and the days after Election Day 2024 in the United States. Days of uncertainty, days with heightened awareness of risks, and possible forebodings of fraught and anxious days. I am not kidding when I put my hands on my hips and declare that these are the kinds of days and seasons for which this verse was written. Its thesis is that even tough days and seasons like ours today can be lived well, without fear or anxiety. They come anyway, we might as well live them with equanimity. Tao works especially on hard days. How? By anticipating our hard times and courageously practicing non-anxious, peace-waging ways to live in abundance, both before and during them, no matter what, no matter when, no matter where. This verse is so sure of the power of living Tao out in practice that our author goes out on this spiritual limb today to say, we shall turn into what we practice. We can actually build up these spiritual reservoirs of capacity and energy for living fully, whether our times are easy and nice or tough and challenging. We practice these things by, as our text says, cultivating virtue. Virtue is noticing how the world works, becoming experts in its workings, as opposed to, say, becoming experts in egotism. Again, we practice, we train, and become what we have practiced. So this verse teaches virtue cultivation, and by extension, moderation. Again, how? Not through ego, but through restraint of ego.
Noticing details is the territory of wisdom. That's why we should train in noticing details. Only when the mind is trained to see things in detail can it see the right causes and effects and the right sequences of things, such as what thoughts and actions give rise to wholesome mind states. Tejaniya, a Burmese Buddhist monk.
Your soul, to put it bluntly, has a vocation. In our podcast so far, I have not been too concerned with how or whether Taoists conceive of the soul. Actually, Taoists believe that the soul is interlinked with and participant in a primal energy field in which we all live and participate, however consciously. Also, Taoists believe people have numerous souls or centers of energy, and the wise seek to integrate these. One's energy or soul, then, can be increased by ridding the body of impurities and living a life of focus on the necessary. Living out and living into this energy is our soul's vocation. So, Lauren, would you kindly read our verse 59 for us today?
The Way to Endure, Part 2. Whether governing people or serving heaven, nothing works better than restraint. Practicing restraint, one prepares for the future. Preparing for the future is to cultivate virtue. Cultivating virtue is the way to overcome any obstacle. To overcome all is to discover how nothing is impossible. Knowing that nothing is impossible is how one maintains the realm. This mother principle of ruling by restraint is the way to endure. One endures with sturdy roots and a thick trunk. It's Tao's way.
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, are you listening?
Taoism is basically an ethical teaching in which, 1, we learn how to live free of the world's conditioning and insanity by 2, the practice of living authentically and faithfully among and for others. Others here being the entire universe, whether living, breathing, or otherwise. What we do matters, and what we don't do matters just as much. So does what we say and don't say. It's all practice with a purpose. In our lives, we have several analog ways of living like a Taoist lives. For example, if one wishes to become the best spouse possible, the best parent possible, the best of anything possible, from an HR position to a first responder, from a soil conservationist to an artist of any sort, well, there is an artless art, a practice, a set of practices one finds within oneself to bring out your excellence and virtue. These vocations are arts of integrating mind, heart, emotions, time management skills, to be a certain kind of person you feel the need to become, and at the same time, allowing others to do the same. Soul work, soul force. I'm using Gandhi's phrase here, soul force. Soul force was his word for satyagraha. Satyagraha practice includes the steady refusal to cooperate with or submit to anything perceived as wrong, and observing a nonviolence of the mind that may include civil disobedience, seeking truth in a spirit of peace and love, and undergoing a rigorous and lifelong process of self-scrutiny.
In Satyagraha, there is no place for fraud or falsehood, or any kind of untruth. Fraud and untruth today are stalking the world. I cannot be a helpless witness to such a situation. Gandhi.
Gandhi and Lao Tzu are agreed. The sage develops a solid steadfastness for good purposes, whether parenting or one's job, social justice, or leadership of any sort. In their steadfast resolve, the sage practices what I call radical resilience, tending our inner flame so we can burn bright in solidarity with the world without burning up or out ourselves.
Patiently and slowly, we must transform ourselves before we can transform the world. Grace Lee Boggs.
The writer D.H. Lawrence wrote that if you believe your life is guided by the larger cosmic forces, you should seek answers and guidance by observing the patterns and movements within the cosmos, like the stars, as a way to understand your situation or make decisions. He said,
If you live by the cosmos, you look in the cosmos for your clue. If you live by a personal God, you pray to him. If you are rational, you think things over. But it all amounts to the same thing in the end. Prayer, or thought, or studying the stars, or watching the flight of birds, or studying the entrails of the sacrifice, it is all the same process, ultimately of divination. All it depends on is the amount of true, sincere, religious concentration you can bring to bear on your object. An act of pure attention, if you're capable of it, will bring its own answer. And you choose that object to concentrate upon which will best focus your consciousness. Every real discovery made, every serious and significant decision ever reached, was reached and made by divination.
Thank you. So some key points to consider here. This paying attention is one of noticing the cosmos, reading the room, reading the scenery, reading nature for clues and signs about what you're to do in life's path. Find your deep interconnection with the natural world as a part of the whole, not as an exploiter of a part. But most of all, one's practice of paying attention is this: looking in the cosmos for your clue. That is, pay attention. Pay close attention to the patterns and phenomena around you, the people even, using your intuition, which is also a practice, to interpret their meaning. What is also implied is our verse's emphasis on restraint, which is a wu-wei practice. Restraint, not doing, is the same as practicing virtue. Why? Because you're not paying attention to the ego voice that wants the opposite of restraint. Paying attention to the right things and energies will bring one's consciousness into a state of pure attention. Because here's a spiritual ecology at work. So long as one understands the true reality of Tao, its potential, its power, and the principles and processes that are at work in what is happening, then greed, hatred, and delusion will not arise. For when we notice the cosmos, the details, the processes of Tao above our heads, beneath our feet, within our being, these are each and every continuous sacraments that live in our lives at every minute.
We shall not sever ourselves from the earth. We must chant our being, and we must dance in time with the rhythms of the earth. N. Scott Momaday. For humans to make sense to ourselves, I think we're going to have to rediscover our kinship with the reptiles and the fish, insects, birds, and mammals, and Palo Santo trees, with which we share the world. Brian McLaren. I'm trying to lose myself, shooting for that. I've had enough of myself. Self-erasure and blending into the scenery and background. Bruce Springsteen.
In our verse today, Lao Tzu pairs together the words restraint, shi, and virtue, de. De, we've seen before, is the same as Dao De Ching, or the power of virtue to raise up what Tao has created and then complete it. She originally referred to a corn storage granary, alluding to building up a store of goodness which is then metered out for all to use. Included here is a sense that you can protect and guard and use sparingly that which you store. You are the granary store. Be careful. It means you have responsibilities. So again, who is this granary? We are. Who practices virtue? We do. So essentially, we cultivate and store up the precious energy or qualities and then release them into the world to aid in everything's coming into its own. We pour the love and essence of who and what we are into everything we do, from child rearing to cooking to house cleaning to working. There is no shortcut. A wise and skillful person can turn poison into medicine, while a person living only for themselves will turn the medicine of our world into poison. In the same way, a skilled Tao practitioner transforms hindrances like greed, hatred, sleepiness, elections, restlessness, and doubt, transforms them into understanding. Like earthworms, they translate the crap of our world into fertilizer and reframe the so-called evils into advantageous goods. So, Lauren, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this verse so far, especially if you know of anyone or had a mentor or been in some situation where there was a practiced individual who practiced soul force. Someone whose very presence in the world has brought peace, focus, harmony, and care for all things. Have you got anything for us?
Yes. So when I kind of reflect on what is included in this verse, there are a few people in particular that really come to mind for me. And I think that the one thing they all have in common is they have a deep understanding of the truth within themselves. They've done really serious work throughout the course of their lives to become very honest with who they are as a person, to acknowledge the good and bad that's inside, and to accept those in a gentle way so that what they put forward into the world isn't tainted by any sort of insecurity or misunderstanding that they have with themselves. And so what they get as a result of that is this really wonderful presence that allows them to hold everyone with space for themselves and those that they're around without intruding on one or the other.
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, are you listening?
I was in a field full of sunflowers. I was feeling the head of midsummer. I was thinking of the sweet electric drowse of creation. When it began to break, in the west, clouds gathered, thunderheads. In an hour, the sky was filled with them. In an hour, the sky was filled with the sweetness of rain and the blast of lightning, followed by the deep bells of thunder. Water from the heavens, electricity from the source, both of them mad to create something. The lightning brighter than any flower, the thunder without a drowsy bone in its body. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. Mary Oliver, sometimes.
Thank you. At any given moment or season in life, do we know what we have to do? That is, does our life at this very moment square with our values? Do we infuse life in its greatest greatness with our equally great hearts? Well, there is a sense that we live day to day, single moment by single moment, finding the marrow in each second. Is there a purpose to all this moment by moment life? Is there some pattern to discover or to follow, a path to journey upon? How do I find this path? Does it have to find me? I'm not talking about goals in life, like when we were young and you're asked by those well-meaning adults, now, what would you like to become when you grow up? But what kind of person or being are we becoming? One trusted by children? A mentoring presence? A person many would have you on their speed dial when trouble or circumstance demands it? What sort of person are we already by our current practices of paying attention? Who are we becoming already? I'm proposing an end-of-life review session here so you can see or speak about a long arc of how your life has arisen, gotten pieced together, and brought, just by your being present, brought peace, joy, justice to anywhere and everywhere you went. Again, forget the usual occupations and careers. Instead, how do we occupy our time day by day and moment by moment?
How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. What we do with this hour and that one is what we are doing. A schedule defends from chaos and whim. It is a net for catching days. It is a lifeboat on which you find yourself decades later still living. Annie Dillard.
So what's a good day to you? Is it the same thing as a good life? Would you like most days to be like that good day? Would you like most days to be like today? I don't mean to be all that morbid, but if you knew that you had a month to live, how would you order your remaining days? Would you read more? Be outdoors more? Visit family and neighbors? Write thank you cards? Well, none of us know what the next 30 days might bring, so why not incorporate more of what we might do into something that we do? The meaning of life has been thoroughly explored by authors such as Leo Tolstoy, Anais Nin, Henry Millard, Annie Dillard, Rebecca Solnit, Viktor Frankl. You can add your own authors here. But they each implore us, what does it matter if I use my free will only to liberate myself? If I don't care about the liberation of all that is imprisoned? Do we join the republic of egotistical despots or the republic of a beloved community? For the sake of our world after this election, for the children and grandchildren we know, and on behalf of the natural world we tend to abuse, let us not forget how truly to be present and even delighted in the midst of the ever-present but never twice the same mystery of life. Robert Pirsig, in his book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, phrased it like this.
The ultimate test is always your own serenity. If you don't maintain this, you're likely to build your personal problems right into the machine itself. It's peace of mind you're after, and not just a fixed machine.
When you take charge of the granary of your life and manage your relationships and follow the heavenly Tao, the most important principle to keep in mind is the conservation of your resources. Like most people, we have a limited amount of time and energy in our human life. We have only so much bandwidth, so we have to make the best use of it all. That means the wisest thing to do is not waste any more of one's life looking for alternatives, but just notice the ways of and then follow the paths of Tao. But it's a slow, gradual process. Hardly flashy or exciting, but it is the true path where the little things add up to big things, and the good days add up to good months, and then good years, and eventually a good life. By walking this path, you can overcome anything and become an unlimited person. You can gain sovereignty, lasting sovereignty over your destiny.
Nothing great is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. There must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. Epictetus. Outside, we govern others. Inside, we care for heaven. In both, nothing surpasses the gardening of spirit. Only if we are still does virtue have a place to collect. Li Shichai.
So in the end, I'm reduced to one word to offer you. Joy. Practice joy, as the poet Wendell Berry phrases it so well, even though you know all the facts. Is there a deep, constant joy in the ways we perceive, interact with, and live? What brings you your deepest joy? Are we practicing these now, today? So my homework suggestion is this. Why not get your calendar out, like right now, and write on every day for the next month the single word, joy. Meditate on what it means to live in joy on that day. That'll be a month not wasted. And if you want, let me know how it goes. So, we gather the Spirit and harvest long practices of integration of self with the world, self with others, pulling together our collection of noticings and practices, wherein we practice resilience in a tough time, and we practice peace in a violent world. We practice trust in a world unaccustomed to either to truth or trust. We shepherd who we are and who we've become, and funnel our slowly emergent spirit back into life and situations all around us. When did Noah build the ark, goes a popular saying? Before the rain. Preparation for the days of too much or too less seem to be a good practice. To live as we ought is, I would offer to you, joy.
Most people use their mind recklessly. The wise use their mind calmly. Calmness means carefulness, and carefulness means a gardening of spirit, an art born of an understanding of Tao. Han Fei.
So in the wake of our most recent election, we don't change. We don't stay self-righteous or sad. We continue. The way to endure, which is the title of this verse in my translation, is that we still chop wood and carry water, just like yesterday, just like the month before and the year before. We still look out for neighbors and children. We still care for the piece of earth we are privileged to steward for future generations. This is our soul's vocation, and in our joy and in our assurance, we know that we're living with soul. Lauren, as we wind this up, do you have any final thoughts, comments, or questions?
I have one, and that is, I think that the opportunity that I had here today was really, I think, more of a gift to me than anything, to be able to spread a message of joy and of preparation and understanding that in difficult times and in easy ones, there's a real way to find a peace of mind. So I think this has just been a real gift to me, in all honesty. So thank you.
Thank you. Wasn't expecting that, but thank you very much. I hope that what Lauren has said is also true for you, is that we can take stock of who we are and maybe notice where we stay on track, or maybe notice when we get off track, and make those mid-course corrections that we all can do. Please don't forget that homework exercise of writing joy on each day of next month's calendar. I'm going to end, as I sometimes do, with a child-friendly version of today's verse. I hope it works for you. Verse 59, how to last a long time. Whether you're leading people or just doing what's right, nothing works better than staying calm and being careful. When you learn to be careful, you're getting ready for the future. Getting ready for the future means growing strong and wise. Growing strong and wise helps you handle any problem. When you can handle anything, you realize that almost nothing is impossible. That may sound crazy, but when you know that, you can take care of things for a long time. This is resiliency at its best. This way of being careful and calm is the best possible way to take care of things so they last a long time. Things that last grow strong with deep roots and a solid trunk, like a tree that lasts for centuries. This way of helping things last is the way of Tao. This podcast is an original work, designed, written, and produced by many, including the good prep work of reader Lauren Lausen. Thank you also to artist Audrey Davis, singer-songwriter Molly Hartwell, and thanks to Fortress Press, who holds the copyright for quotations from my Tao Te Ching translation. May your days begin rooted in sagely peace, so you know and model a politics of hope, of which our world is in great, great need.
Are you listening?